communication with our clients and their clients is also something that's very important, but also amongst staff. I did a job for WorkSafe one day, and the question came up of what is classified as bullying or sexual harassment in the workplace regarding conversation. And the lady gave an example of her and her friends. They've been working together for 20 years, and they had in-jokes. And after that time, we get really comfortable with each other, and some of the in-jokes might be a little bit, or deemed as a little bit inappropriate to anyone walking by. And the lady asked the WorkSafe representative, what happens if we've got a new person in and they're offended because they walk past the door and they've heard this in-joke between me and my couple of friends, and keep walking, then report to management. Who's responsible for that? Is that a thing that we need to be worried about? Whatever. And the WorkSafe representative turned around and said, well, yes, the fact is anyone can walk past your conversation, and if they hear something that remotely offends them or they class as bullying, then you can get in big trouble for that. Whether it's something you all understand or it's something that's just taken out of context, you can get in trouble for it, which I found really interesting. And the lady then turned around and said, well, are we just not supposed to talk at work and have our friendly conversations? And the lady at WorkSafe said, unfortunately, those conversations are better off being had at home in your own environments. So that leaves us in a very interesting circumstance in our industry as a whole, not just with First Class, and being aware of what you're saying around people and the context that you're saying them in. There is a lot that can offend people out there that we don't understand or that we don't consider offensive, but they do. So you need to be very mindful of your language, what you say, some of the jokes that get told, and so on. So it's a hard one to gauge, and if you're in habits, it's a hard one to get out of. But just be mindful that the things that you say on site that can even remotely offend someone walking by, especially if it's one of the client's patrons, you can get in serious trouble for it. They're not only in First Class alone, but on a legal field outside of our workplace. You are actually responsible for the things that you say that are offensive to others. So yeah, just be very careful and mindful of those little in-jokes that go on. I've been working in this industry for a long time, and some of the things that get said among certain groups of people are just very interesting. I spent 6 months on a tour bus with a few people, and by the end of that 6 months, some of the conversation was just outrageous. But it was all, for us, it was all fun and games. Yeah. But I tell you what, if anyone walked past that bus and heard some of the stuff, we'd be liable for a lot of trouble.
I guess it just pays to remember we're always working in someone else's space. Like, we're always working for another client, and they often have their clients there as well. So I think starting off with an awareness will get you most of where you need.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get comfortable really quickly in any kind of situation with people and peers, because I guess we're all human, and I guess we're not always taking things really, really seriously. But I think you always have to remind yourself that you are in a working environment, especially in a corporate environment as well. So being in a corporate environment requires you to be that extra bit cautious. So I think you always got to just be a bit careful about kind of everything that kind of is being said.
Yeah, I mean, there are some basic rules like derogatory or racial or sexual based comments or sexist comments are flat out illegal anyway. Saying those things about or to anyone is a flat out no. Like in this environment or any other environment, it's just illegal to do. But then there's also the question of what is offensive language. So things that you find offensive in terms of swear words. I know in certain environments that we work in, using the term "oh my God" or "Jesus" is offensive. So just be mindful of those things. swearing is very commonplace nowadays, but is not necessarily accepted in all environments.
And
Just be very careful.
I think that's the thing with first class, because we work in a little bit of, a variety of different places. A lot of the way people communicate changes too. Like you can be jumping into a warehouse and everyone is just constantly swearing, back chatter constant. And then you jump into MCEC where it's really, really, you got to be careful about how you conversate with people. So, and I think that can kind of might confuse a bit of people too sometimes, where to, constantly, where to be, talking in the correct way. But I think when you have a general, understanding of how you are to be, communicating, that should draw the line and be like, all right, you've got to be careful about how I say these things, what's appropriate, what's not. Yeah, because I've been at warehouses and people have just been communicating with me and they're just throwing an F word here and there. And that's not a problem with me at all. But if you're an individual and that's new to that kind of work and that was your first shift and that was the way they were communicating with you, that might kind of change your outlook on how you are to be around other people and other places.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to be influenced like that, so you just got to be cautious and be mindful of that.
Yeah. Well, that tour bus I was on, we went out for dinner at a pub one day, and there were a lot of families around, and this one guy was unaware of his change of environment and started mouthing off, and we all shut him down very fast because we were right next to a table of like a 5 and an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, no.
Yeah, now's a no.
That is not
appropriate.
So yeah, just be aware of your changes of circumstances, whether it's the office, the warehouse, or out in the general forum of the foyer of wherever you are. You represent first class, and not only that, in cases like MCEC, you represent MCEC, so you can't do anything to upset that representation because that reflects badly on first class.
Absolutely.